It's my great honor to introduce our second keynote speaker today, Nick Moroz. Nick is the Director of Entrepreneurial Practice at University of Michigan. As the director, Nick managed all of the center's co-curriculum programs, including the Entrepreneur's Leadership Program, Global Tracks, and TechLab. And specifically, I want to thank Nick for the TechLab leadership. And Nick is an experienced innovator and of manufacturing and advanced materials technology, and has often played the role of technical founder. He's driven by his dedication to share his entrepreneurial experience with students and startups to benefit the greater entrepreneurial ecosystems. Previously, he co-founded Detroit Materials and helped develop a patent portfolio of HSLA structural steels for demanding applications in the automotive, defense, and off-highway tooling and transportation industry. Prior to Detroit Materials, Nick co-founded CSquared Innovations, a University of Michigan advanced battery and materials manufacturing spin-off. Nick was also president of Breakthrough for Humanity Management, a research and development firm for focusing commercializing disruptive clean energy innovations for fuel management, plastic recycling, and hydrogen production. Nick earned his bachelor degree in physics and mathematics from Albion College in 2006, a BS and MS in mechanical engineering from University of Michigan in 2008 and 2010, and completed his MS and Ph.D. in material science engineering at the University of Michigan in 2017. So he has lots of degrees. Nick also received 2014 Harry Benford Award for Entrepreneurial Leadership from the College of Engineering at the University of Michigan. Please welcome Nick.
Right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Liu, for the introduction. Thank you to CCAT for inviting me here to share the TechLab at MSE program. And thank you to MSE and the College of Engineering for partnering on this program. Something I'm very proud of here. We've talked a lot in this conference about some of the interesting opportunities in the connected autonomous vehicle space. Certainly, talent is one of the major bottlenecks, and so that's what I want to address with this program and share some of the successes that we've had. As Dr. Liu mentioned, I'm Director of Entrepreneurial Practice at the Center for Entrepreneurship here at the University of Michigan, and that's actually one of the main entrepreneurship centers that's housed at the College of Engineering. So a little bit more context about what we do at the Center for Entrepreneurship. There's three main pillars of what we focus on. There's a broad academic focus in which we have over 1,900 students in our courses that are available for any student at the University of Michigan, and that's every year we have that many students. We have 26 faculty members that are instructors that are actually practitioners of entrepreneurship, so they have startups they're running, or they're between startups, or they're mentors in residence. We also have a tech acceleration arm. We were recently awarded the NSF I-Corps Midwest Regional Hub, which is quite an achievement. This is our focus in which we partner with the Office of Innovation Partnerships, a variety of other sectors at University of Michigan, and particularly with faculty and researchers to help them develop the skills and the business plans necessary to commercialize their research, whatever they're working on. And what I focus on, what I lead, are the co-curricular programs, which are right there in the middle. The Entrepreneurial Leadership Program and TechLab at MSE are two of the main programs and a series of other events, but essentially the co-curricular programs are largely focused on connecting students, both undergraduates and graduate students, with career opportunities based on their entrepreneurial mindset. So whether it's starting a company, connecting with startups for a job, or just learning those skills such that when they find the opportunity that they are really going to go for, that it's something that they have a base to help them with. So yesterday in the first panel, Dr. Tilbury talked a little bit about how if we are to teach students essentially what the technologies are today, then we're not necessarily doing them a great favor. I'm paraphrasing there, but we'll be behind. And that's what TechLab MSE is all about. So, as I previously mentioned, talent is a major driver right now of the connected and autonomous vehicle industry. Jobs are being unfilled. I think it's indisputable that there are more engineers and more people that are needed for this industry really to reach its maturation. And these are two interesting tidbits that I pulled, one from before the pandemic and one from after. BCG analysis stated that today less than 1% of college graduates with computer engineering or computer science or software engineering degrees enter the automotive industry, which I think is relatively surprising given the energy around the automotive industry in terms of its disruption at the moment. Now, that's just computer science engineers. Recently, the Council on Future Mobility and Electrification reported that the need for high-tech talent is going to exceed what the current development pipelines can actually produce. Now, we're sitting here at the University of Michigan, which is one of the main producers of the top talent the world has in terms of this industry. So this is pretty salient for us. And just to highlight this point even more, if we look at a company like Cruise Automation, which is one of the leading full-stack vehicle human taxi developers, back in 2016, just after they were founded, they had 40 employees. They were actually acquired at that point actually they were founded a little bit earlier than that, but when they were acquired by GM in 2016, they only had 40 employees. In 2018, we actually took the TechLab MSE students to go visit Cruise Automation, and I think they had something around 120 employees or so. Now in 2022, they're at more than 2,000 employees and growing really quickly. So just in terms of one company, the scale that's needed in terms of talent is pretty ridiculous. And it's something that when you look at a university like University of Michigan, when we have something along the lines of, I think it's 6,000 undergraduate students that are focused on disciplines that are applicable to this space, you can see that there's going to be tremendous need across the board. Now, there have been many different technologies that have been talked about at this conference so far, very exciting technologies that include everything from infrastructure, communications, vehicle communications, cybersecurity. But I only highlight that to say that the need for cross-functional talent, particularly from the technical standpoint, really spans the entire engineering discipline, data sciences, information sciences, and other disciplines that again, are going to see things like advancements in artificial intelligence, machine learning, systems thinking. This is all very obvious to us. This is obvious to the Center for Entrepreneurship, too, in the College of Engineering, which is part of the reason why we have CCAT. But my perspective at looking at this particular industry right now is a little bit more along the lines of, or at least it reminds me of Edison and the light bulb and sort of how that innovation became something that's a reality that we take for granted at this point. These stages of invention, just the drawing itself, the concept, innovation, actually developing the first prototype, the minimum viable product, implementation, the street lamp right there, and then finally the actual scale up so that it's useful and makes significant change in the world. That takes something additional to the technical skills that were being provided by some of the disciplines in that last slide. That takes an entrepreneurial mindset. When I think about this picture in the bottom right, that is of one of the first deployments of, I think it's actually DC light bulbs in New York City, that took an entrepreneurship. That took a sense of entrepreneurship, a sense of the entrepreneurial mindset. How do you scale this up? What are the resources, the partnerships? What's actually needed to take this technology and have it achieve its full potential? And all that thinking went into the responsibility at the Center for Entrepreneurship found in creating the TechLab MSE program, which is a co-curricular, is a company in residence program for early stage advanced mobility companies in the connected autonomous vehicle space through the work of elite and technically skilled students. And this was founded back in 2016. Really, the purpose of this program is to connect four main stakeholders. First and foremost, students. We are trying to provide them an opportunity, a leg up, an access point into this emerging market based on some of the most state-of-the-art technologies, working with some of the companies that we find have the most promising traction, both from a market and technological standpoint. We want to support the startups that I just mentioned from a global perspective So we're recruiting startups from all over the world to be part of this program. But startups that meet both the research goals of groups like MCity, some of the research goals of groups like UMTRI, the University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute, the College of Engineering broadly, and also the region. So we work with a whole bunch of partners, many of which have been speakers over the past couple of days. We also wanted to leverage unique University of Michigan resources, primarily MCity, as something where, again, we're providing students access to these unique U of M resources, but also providing these startups themselves unique access to these resources. They actually don't have to pay for access through this program based on the projects that they're working on. And lastly, we wanted to make sure that this was an ecosystem that was going to provide access and awareness to the industrial partners that are ultimately required if this entrepreneurial mindset is to take hold in the scale up. So OEMs, insurance companies, firms and businesses that are creating policy or that are addressing all the various bottlenecks to the wider adoption of these important technologies. The structure of this is maybe not obvious, but at the same time, I think the results are, or what we're going for is relatively obvious with this. It's a relatively resource-intensive program, but this is ultimately what it looks like. There's a winter semester in which students have a 3-credit-hour course and a fall semester in which they have a 3-credit-hour course. Both of those can be used as technical electives, so they interface with many majors and many different minors that the university has to offer. The students work over year-long projects. And then we also offer them winter and fall startup immersion treks, such as the one that I mentioned previously, which we took the students to San Francisco, met with a variety of different tech companies, a lot of autonomous vehicle companies. We saw Cruise Automation for 3 years in a row, so we got to see their interesting growth. The way this all comes together is over every summer, myself, the Center for Entrepreneurship, recruit up to 6 startup companies from all around the globe. We've had companies from Sydney, Australia, from London, from East Asia, from the Middle East. We've had companies from San Francisco, San Diego, of course, Detroit and Ann Arbor. We recruit them based on the technologies that they're working on. Are they aligned with some of the goals that we have as a university ecosystem, as a regional ecosystem here, and what we want to focus on in terms of the technological advancement of the connected autonomous vehicle space? So this has spanned things like new sensors, new vehicle to infrastructure communications paradigms, cybersecurity methodologies, plenty of full stack vehicles like Gaddix up there right now. We focus on seed companies to Series B companies, roughly 25 to 75 employees, because ultimately what the companies provide the program is access to a technical project based on not the critical path of the company, but the technologies that they have. It's not an IP creating project that we're focused on here. There's no development that happens in this program. It's demonstration and deployment based on exploratory projects that the students will be leading as engineering teams. The companies ultimately provide a technical mentor to the program. So it's a unique way in which the students are actually getting access, not just to leading these projects that are, again, on the cutting edge and kind of critically important to the entire industry, but they get access to the people that are actually thinking about these, working on these technologies on a day-to-day basis and leading these. We recruit then in the fall 24 undergraduate and graduate students, primarily master's students, that are often engineering students, but we've had students from just about everywhere at the University of Michigan. They then get recruited, they interview with the companies and such, and after they get accepted in the program, we form 6 teams of 4 students. In the first semester, they're provided a lecture in which they learn all about project management that's driven by 2 of our great co-instructors, Eric Wingfield and Doug Moore, both of which have experience at startups, have experience in OEMs like Ford, and a variety of other things that are really advantageous to have. And then in the fall semester, the students focus on product management. So how are they actually taking their project and turning it into something that incorporates customer strategy and a variety of other ways to integrate it with what the company is working on. The output of this really is the companies see a lot of due diligence. There are a lot of demonstrations that take place that are, otherwise really challenging and that the startups don't have access to MCity typically otherwise. Deployments of actual vehicles and actual technologies. We've partnered with the city of Ann Arbor on certain projects. And most importantly, and most prominently, new careers for students that are really high impact. This has been a very successful experiment. Since 2016, which we launched it in partnership with MCity, the College of Engineering, and the University of Michigan Office of Research. At this point in 2022, you can see at the bottom there is a picture of the very first cohort, and the top is a picture of the most recent cohort. We've now had 171 students, both undergrad and master's students, participate in the program. 21 startups have participated, and since 2019, the program has featured 24 students and 6 startups. It grew from 1 company at the beginning with 4 students on the team. More than 60 guest speakers, lots of guest speakers from the companies, so the students themselves get to see and hear from the people that are working on the other projects as well, and that are leading the other companies. We have people from the business operations side as well as and strategic side as well as the technical side present to students. So the students really get an understanding of not just how to make these things work, but how they're going to work in the real world. The outcomes from this program, too, for students have been quite exceptional in the sense that there's no other program that I've seen at the University of Michigan or anywhere else that's providing students this type of access to this type of emerging industry. Again, the fact that there is such a delta between the talent that is needed, the spots that are available, but also the key spots in terms of if you want to hire a really, really, really highly talented perception engineer, where are you going to go? And who, as a mechanical engineering student or computer science student, how do they know where to go to find those opportunities? That's where it all happens in TechLab at MCity. We had more than 70 student participants complete the program just in the past 5 years and that have graduated from U of M. And of those 70, 14 are now currently full-time in the connected autonomous vehicle industry at places like Cruise Automation, Toyota, Ford, 60AI, May Mobility, Mercedes-Benz R&D, Neuro, and NIO, and Tesla as well. And then we've had another 13 that are employed in connected autonomous vehicle adjacent businesses such as Microsoft, Facebook, Foxconn, so on and so forth, working on cloud computing and such directly related to the space. So you can see more than roughly 40% of the students that are part of this program now graduate and go directly into the industry. Now let me just share a few of the different success stories from the student perspective that we're most proud of. Melinda Kothbauer, who graduated in 2018, she's now a robotics engineer at May Mobility. In fact, she was the first female engineer hired by May Mobility, which is another Ann Arbor startup that was kind of a spinoff from the University of Michigan and later became a member of the TechLab at MCity program as well. The project that she was working on was with ZenDrive, a San Francisco company, to create a driver score based on fuel consumption from smartphone data that's taken from passengers in the vehicle. And you can see some of the results right there, which are kind of interesting. Also part of that cohort, we had Mohan Katari and Chris Shi, mechanical engineer and electrical engineer. They both work at Cruise Automation right now. They were members of the first cohort as well. They both worked on the ZenDrive team, but on a different project. So they were actually working on determining hard braking signals from cell phones that were, again, in the actual vehicle. And you can see some of their experiment right here was actually putting a bunch of different cell phones in cup holders and back seats, a variety of different places in the vehicle, running around MCity, making hard stops and such, and then ultimately taking that data and trying to relay it back in relative real time to both the, for a variety of different reasons, but insurance companies being a big one with that. Rini Gupta, an electrical engineer, graduated in 2018 as well. She's now a software engineer at NIO. She was a member of the PolySync team that was actually developing a connection between the open source platform Apollo that PolySync was commercializing with the proprietary software on a variety of different vehicles. And Ian Rios-Cieler, who's, again, one of the first cohort members. He's now a software engineer at Niantic. He worked on the Civil Maps team and was developing 3D mapping at MCity using a monocular camera. That application led him to having a computer vision engineering role at 60AI. That company was then acquired by Niantic, and he's still with Niantic and has been growing at that company ever since. And then last, Rourke Petula graduated in 2020 as an electrical engineering undergrad student. He's now at strategy and operations at autonomous vehicles at Ford and has been climbing the ladder quite steadily. He was a member of the TOME team, and he was actually working on developing smart infrastructure and a series of classifiers that were going to identify cyclists on the road and then pass that information back either to vehicles or other pedestrians. This program has also been very helpful at powering startup growth. At least 9 companies that we've had in the program have raised more than $300 million while participating in the program. Companies can participate in the program for up to 2 years, so essentially 2 cohorts. But some of the most high-impact investors, such as Google Ventures, Ford, Toyota, a series of other investors, have been part of this, investing in these companies, sometimes based on some of the information that they've seen come out of TechLab at MCity projects. We've also had some companies achieve acquisition or actually exit while being part of the program based somewhat on what they've been working on at the program. Like Right Hook, for example, they were acquired by Spectrus. They actually were developing a series of simulation tools in which on the left-hand side, you can see here, that is the actual real image running around MCity. And on the right-hand side, you can see their simulated image where they're actually adding a vehicle to what which is that blue vehicle that's simulated, to actually what the vehicle is sensing, that real vehicle is actually sensing. At the time, this is quite revolutionary. It's actually a service that MCity now offers to its affiliate members, if I'm not mistaken. But this is a great example of, again, how this technology, this company, this program helped sort of the wider adoption of this. Last year, DeepMap was actually was part of the program, and they were acquired by NVIDIA while participating, which is a very large acquisition, $450 million or so. And then one of my favorite stories I like to tell is a story about Carmera that was in the program for 2 years, back in 2018 and 2019. That worked with a series of really talented students. And the students actually, so Carmera, for those that aren't familiar, uses a monocular camera. And originally they had some crowdsourcing of the information that they were going to provide updated HD maps in relative real time to fleet services. They've since slightly changed that model. But at the time, what they were producing was they were running Carmera vehicles around places like New York City and trying to identify where there are disturbances in normal pathways like construction. And they were going to pass that information off to other fleets so that they could change their routes, and then ultimately to autonomous vehicle fleets so they could ultimately really change their routes. The students helped apply this to actually identify orange pixels, to identify like cones and orange barrels and stuff. And so you can see in this animated GIF, this is them actually with their minimum viable product kind of at MCity running around identifying a series of construction equipment. That was a development that went directly then into the production software of Carmera, which was later quite attractive to Toyota. That led to a Series B funding round by Toyota of more than $20 million into Carmera. And just last year, or 2021, early 2021, Toyota's Woven Planet acquired Carmera. So I really want to highlight that this it's a very intricate program. It's somewhat complicated. It's now become what I consider a really key component of the University of Michigan and statewide connected autonomous vehicle ecosystem. This program would only be successful because of the partnerships and the support that we've received from MCity, from UMTRI, from Planet M, now OFME, from Ann Arbor Spark, the Michigan Israel Business Accelerator, and not just in recruiting companies to come to the state of Michigan to attract talent, to utilize some of these unique resources like MCity, like the databases at UMTRI, but to actually put roots down here. And we've seen a variety of these companies actually now being housed at Spark or having other actual physical footprints. Attestech, for example, just this year actually joined, they've got their new headquarters in Ann Arbor. Also, this has been an interesting program which we've seen just recently, company-to-company collaborations where, for example, Deepen AI, which provides simulation services for edge cases, is now providing calibration service software to Attestech, which is developing a Class 4 autonomous vehicle. And that all happened within this particular cohort of startups, the 2022 cohort. So really, what's next for this? I think it's, again, back to the first couple slides in which there's such a need for talent in this space, not just in the sense of, are there enough people with the skills, but also they need to be inspired to actually go into this type of work. And additionally, that they need to know how to access this type of work. And that's why I think this is such an important entrepreneurship educational product that we've produced here. I think this is something that, if you represent another university or academic center, this is something to replicate. It's something to certainly try. It's relatively resource heavy, but as you can see from the sort of the career initiatives that students are seeing and from the follow-on support and advantages that the startups are seeing and potentially the industry partners, it's really well worth it. This is something to consider trying to scale up. Right now, I'm trying to find industry partnerships that are actually going to help us with that, whether it's something that's providing more resources to have additional sections or branch this off into duplication with focus on like energy or other things that are related to the connected autonomous vehicle space that are really important, charging stations and such. And really that's sort of the replication of other themes. So with that, thank you all for letting me share this program that I'm really proud of. Thank you to MCity. Thank you to Umtree. Thank you to the College of Engineering and Office of Research for partnering with us on this. Thank you to Dr. Liu and Dr. Peng and Greg McGuire for being great partners with this. That's it. Is there time for a question? Okay.
We have time for a couple questions.
Nick, we've had a number of interesting conversations or presentations over the week, or the last 2 days. And one of the things that struck me yesterday was the way the USDOT was setting up academic relationships across colleges. And I would think that would be a welcome and open opportunity for CFE and other universities.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think some things that really stand out about the experience we've had so far with this is that leveraging the unique University of Michigan resources, such as MCity, doesn't necessarily have to be solely through U of M connections, in a sense. It could be something that could be broader in a way. And I think additionally that we've seen over the past 2 years, the utility, I guess, of remote education as well, and that there are some opportunities that we could have connections with schools that are not necessarily located here or close by, but that could be sharing in some of these messages, some of this type of work, some of these types of projects, remote in terms of some of the lecture, but maybe some of the projects actually take place up here, where there's some leveraging of that. But I certainly think that having more academic connections to this would only strengthen the program. That diversity has been a strength of the program so far, and it's something to certainly lean into.
Hi, thank you. The University of Michigan, as you know, does a lot of research. Much of our research originates because of people's own interests, faculty's own interests, or sometimes even graduate students' interests or undergraduate students' interest, or sponsorship opportunities. At the back end of it is when the commercialization is thought through. And then the process starts all over again because, the preferred method of commercializing is to go through I-Corps and sort of shelve your ideas all to the side and look at the blank slate all over again. And it seems to me that that's not the optimal use of how people do their research. I mean, people do their research because they're interested, there's opportunities, and there seems to be a huge gap between what the commercialization pathway looks like and what the research pathway looks like.
Mm-hmm. So that's been my experience as well. in terms of being a university researcher and spinning off technologies, and then being somebody who actually licenses technology from a researcher at a separate university. It was actually Wayne State at the time. If the question is how to bridge that gap or how to support that more, I think certainly there's a lot of utility in programs like I-Core. There's tremendous utility in working with groups like the Office of Innovation Partnerships, tech transfer units and such. I do think that there is, if TechLab and City can provide any additional support with that in a sense, it would be that having an ecosystem that has startups, companies at a variety of different levels, all within the same ecosystem, different stages. So you have researchers that are just starting to spin out stuff. You have groups that are already seed funded. You have Series A, Series B companies, and so on and so forth, all within shouting distance of one another, let's say, that the shared information that they can get from each other, I think, is really valuable and something that is, there'll never be enough of, so to speak, especially with these industries that are changing so rapidly. So something that I just mentioned a little bit ago is the fact that two of the companies are now, in this particular cohort, are now utilizing one another's product. And I think some of that is what you could see at even the earlier stage. If there's enough of this type of activity that, again, is fostered in terms of both the connectivity and how people can actually meet. Thank you. Yeah.
One of the translation programs that you developed is then next. Advertise to use that to make that program bigger. Does that seem to be the target that makes the most sense to have something that you get one or two and the more before some people look at it?
So the MTRAC program used to be part of the Center for Entrepreneurship, but it hasn't been for a couple of years, at least now. I have to imagine that there is an appetite for it, particularly because researchers want that. I mean, more funding specifically related to the application of research is something that every researcher I've ever come across to the University of Michigan certainly is seeking. But I don't know I don't know how exactly it will be expanded or if it will be, but it's a good question. Thank you. I can take some more questions after, but thank you, everybody.